Nathan, let's start with you. Yeah. Just introduce yourself. You can sit on the bench, yeah.
Hello, my name's Nathan. I'm a freshman. I'm pursuing a mechanical engineering degree.
Wait, hang on. Yo, say that again.
Hi, my name's Nathan. I'm a freshman here at Penn State, and I'm going to be pursuing my mechanical engineering degree.
Freshman, where are you from?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. All right, awesome, man.
Hi, my name is Maggie. I'm a rehabilitation and human services major.
And where are you from?
A really small town. It's near Bedford, PA.
Uh-huh. Dude, give me the town. I might know.
It's called Claysburg.
Claysburg?
Yeah,
Claysburg.
there's a Sheets distribution center there.
Yeah, all right, I
That's
got
it.
you. I know Claysburg. All right. Corin.
Hi, my name's Corin. I'm a senior at Penn State. I'm a film major and a Dart major. I'm from Uniontown, Pennsylvania.
And you, okay, so, and you also, you're in the National Guard or the Reserves or what?
I'm in the United States Marine Corps.
In the Marine Corps, yeah, that's right. And you're doing your degree. Okay. Good. Dude, all you're doing is sitting on a table and you get applause. You know what I mean? I'm doing all the work. I don't get any applause. All right, so look, no, seriously, yeah. Okay, bring it on. Yeah. All right, okay, good. All right. So you two, the two of you identified as leaning conservative. And you in particular, you're part of Young Americans for Freedom?
Yes, I'm the treasurer of Young Americans for Freedom.
Which is a student organization that's really just conservative, but I mean, it's relative. I don't even know what that means anymore, but okay. They asked me to be their faculty advisor many years ago. Okay. And Maggie, you don't lean conservative.
No, I'd say I lean more liberal.
Okay. But one thing about you that's important that we'll come back to is you grew up part of your life really poor, right?
Yeah, I was low income.
Low income, like food stamps, low income.
Yep.
Okay, got it. Okay, so we're going to have a conversation about inequality today, and we will. And so these things will come into play. And for the two of you, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to make an argument that these two, that Nathan and Corin and other people who identify as conservative will accept. It's a sociological argument, but sociology, remember, like we're seeing, we embrace, or we are a profession that's built upon ideas that really support what would be considered a liberal perspective. Doesn't mean we're all liberal, but that's the idea, the foundation of sociology is built upon that, which means understanding the factors and forces outside of our control that shape what we do. Okay, listen to this, right? In sociology, we try to understand the factors and forces outside of our control that shape what we do and how we think. And what would be classically more of a perspective that's more embraced by people who hold more conservative ideas are focusing on the way we think and the things we do based on what our internal motivations are. Like, I have the power to make decisions to be something or think something other than I do and think. That's what we typically identify as a much more traditional or conservative approach. Focus on individual responsibility, individual power. The sociological approach says, yeah, that's important. Those things are really, really important. But what we as a profession do, we focus on the things that we don't control. We want to understand what those are, okay? So what we can control is important, right? Decisions you make are really important. But what I do as a sociologist is I want to look at, every decision you make, all three of you, the decisions you make, how you think, et cetera, is really, really important, are important. But so are things that are outside of your control that you don't see, things you were born into, so on. They are equally as formative in shaping who you are and what you become. Okay? Cool? So that's what we're going to work on today. All right, let's do the quiz, first attendance quiz, and then we will start class. All right, so listen, stream. I think we have a good class. What I want you to do, I'm really trying to make an argument that will be not just accepted, but actually embraced by people who hold a very conservative perspective. So we'll see how well I do that. And then we can talk about it tomorrow during my office hours. But we really want to kind of work this out and see how far we can go with it. I think we have 3 really cool volunteers. So I think we're ready to work. All right. Okay, so while you're doing that, can I get 10 people, maybe like, how about, can you stand here? Can you, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, can the 7 of you stand up? No, it's 7, yeah, so that's 8, and then you 2, all right? Why don't you come down here? You stand here, and you stand with this group right here, 4 of you. You 4? No, wait, hang on. Let me see what this is. Yeah, you 4, you stand together here. You can face the class. And you 5 all are together in one group, and you face the class. All right, can you go to the next slide? So the title of today's class is You Need to Catch Up, okay? You need to catch up, all right? So you're just going to, I'm going to do a demonstration in some way. Okay, next slide. So now let me show you what this is. You all can take a look at this however you want to see it, but let me show you what this is. This is wealth. We're going to look at wealth in the United States, and if you look on the far, we have it. I have it backwards. That's okay. We're just going to let it go backwards. This guy, dude, can you come in with this here, okay? You come down here. Wait, hang on. No, you stay there. You guys, bro, you go down here, and the 4 of you sort of just move down to right here, okay? So look at on the far left here. 10%, each one of these people represent families in the United States. 12.9 million families in the United States. Okay, each one of them. So 12.9 million here, 51.5 million here, more or less, okay? Now, this guy is the rich. He represents the rich. He's the richest. He represents the wealthiest 10% of families in the United States. And he and all of the families in this wealthy group control 75%, it's 76, 75% of all the wealth in the U.S. And wealth is, you add up all their assets of these people, and you subtract the debt, and that's how much they control, the richest 10%. 75.5, 76%. Yo, these guys are the next 4 deciles. A decile is 10%. So they are in the middle group, the middle 40%. So 51.5 million families, these folks right here. You all represent that. And you control 20% of all the wealth in the U.S. 23%. Okay? So 23%. This guy, he's at 75%. Okay, these rich families, these are like the middle class families. They control 23% of all the wealth. So you're adding up all the money, the stocks, property, housing, et cetera, right? These folks right here, you're the bottom half of the United States, the poorest 50% of people in the United States, and they control 2% of all the wealth. So if you multiply them, this is 60.3 million families. $64.3 million families, okay? Half the families in the United States. They control 2% of the wealth. Think about that. Joe, think about that, right? 2%. This guy down here, these families, the almost 13 million families control 76% or 75%. It's just hold that a second. Just think about the inequality there. Think about that. Think about the rich. We talk about the rich, and this isn't even the rich. The richest of the rich is the group in this group that's down here, the small percentage of them that control control the majority of that wealth. But these are the wealthy folks in the U.S. 3/4 of all the wealth, man. The money, the savings, the stocks, etc. Here we got somewhere in the middle, 23%, and here, dude, 2%, man. Like, nothing, okay? So you're holding that, okay? You guys holding that, right? Because we're going to talk about these. All right, y'all. Okay, you can sit down. Thanks for that. All right, so listen. Can you go to the next slide? Oh, wait. Go back, actually. What do you think is the reason for this? That inequality that I just demonstrated. That you got half of all the families that are controlling 2% of the wealth. And you got 10% of the families that are controlling 3/4. Maggie, we can start with you.
As far as the families in the 2% region go, I think a big reason for that is society, the government makes it really hard for low-income families to build generational wealth. I'm a rehabilitation major, so I study mental health a lot. Deinstitutionalization in the 60s. So everyone got out of these, what we would know as like insane asylums. But there weren't community programs for them to go into. So a lot of them started patterns of addiction, trying to think, were homeless, things like that. And when I could go through a lot of examples, but let's say you don't have a lot of money, so like you don't know the right network to get a big job.
So you're just behind all the time.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that you start there because that's your major, right? So that's the stuff that you're thinking about all the time. And for me, I'm thinking, well, first off, I think it's interesting that you start there. But secondly, we're still looking at half of all the families. So you mentioned generational wealth, but it's this half. It's more than just mental illness and, all of those things. It's so much. What do you explain? How do you explain the families at that far end, the richest 10%? Well, hang on. Actually, let me go to somebody else. How do you explain that? We'll come back to Maggie.
I don't know if I can explain the exact top 10%, but I think it'd be even more interesting to see it broken down into like singular percentiles, where the 1% is probably controlling over 50% of the wealth as a whole. So I think it's probably even worse than that graph seems to show.
Okay, so how do you explain that? Like, how do you make sense of that?
I don't make sense in terms of me personally or in terms of
like how do you explain it? Like for me, the thing that I naturally look at, if I imagine myself like up here, right, looking down at those, the 5 people down there, the 50%, the 40% here, the 1% here, I'm thinking to myself, whoa, man, that is just, first off, it's mind-blowing when you look at it that way. And I want to understand, I want to make sense. Like, how did these people get so much money?
I don't think I can explain how they got so much money, but I think it's rooted in human desire to constantly be gaining more and more and get more and more. And even if you say, oh, I'll give to the poor, you always have the desire to see that number go up. So the richest of the rich just have the ability to generate even more revenue, and they're never going to give back.
So, Corin, when he says ability, what does ability mean for you? What's he mean by ability? The rich have the ability to generate more and more wealth. Like, define ability.
I look at it from whenever you have the ability, you can do whatever you set your mind to. So yeah, people can inherit wealth from family, but anybody has the potential to strive in this country to get to that point. So I think of ability as people, no matter who they are, can get to that point. It's just a matter of not just knowing people, but taking small steps to get there.
Okay, so think about the 64 million families down here. Do they all have the ability to get up there?
I would say so. For example, seeing people that...
Dude, hang on a second. The problem is I'm putting you in a trap, right? In a way. So it's really difficult to answer. So I'm going to acknowledge that, right? I'm not purposely putting you in a trap. I just am accidentally by asking the question. Can Maggie, by the time Maggie is my age, can Maggie be standing down there?
I mean, sure.
Okay. What's the likelihood that Maggie will be standing down there?
I don't know the percentage.
Give it like your guess.
I have no idea. I do think that, of course, someone can get to that point. I don't know the likelihood of what steps they choose in life.
But let's just break it in half. Is she more likely or less likely to end up down there? If you and I were to go to Vegas and you're going to put your money on black, which is more likely, or red, which is less likely, and we're going to spin the roulette wheel, you going to put it on red or black?
Whatever's more likely. If black's more likely, then yeah.
Dude, hang on a second. Maggie, no, I want you to don't be politically correct here, my Marine friend, all right? Dude, Maggie grows up poor, food stamps, right? She's here. Okay, no, it's good. You don't have to. Dude, Maggie, let me ask you, what's the likelihood you're going to end up down there?
I think it's more likely that I'm not going to.
Why do you think that?
I think time between people who are wealthy and time between people who are poor is treated a lot different. So, for example, I'm going to make a pop culture reference, but there's a limited series on Netflix called Made. This gives you really great perspective of where it come from. So someone needs housing to live, and they need transportation to get to their job. They need to pay for the gas to get there, but they have a kid, so they have to pay for daycare, and they don't have any money to invest into, stocks or anything that's going to build that generational wealth. And the time that people who are wealthy have, they don't have to worry about that time so much, and it's almost it is easier. So
well, whether it's easier or not easier, you could simply say it this way. It's more likely.
It is more likely.
It's more likely that, okay, you start in this group, okay? You start in this group. It's possible. First off, it's possible you're going to end up there, okay? But I'm not going to bet. Yeah, you agree it's possible?
I do agree it's possible. I can see myself ending up there for sure.
Is it likely?
It depends how hard you work. I'd say I'd have to work a lot harder to get there than someone who is wealthy.
Dude, hang on. Do you think? Okay, now this is where I get in trouble. Look, can someone focus on me? Can you put me on yellow? Look, ma'am, This is where sociologists this is where I got in trouble with Fox News a few years ago. Okay, so I'm going to be really careful. For telling some white person that they weren't going to be able to. No, I was telling a black guy that he wasn't going to be able to do something. I don't know. And I'm like, no, I wasn't telling him he wasn't going to be able to do it. I'm giving the data what's likely, okay? And so, look, it's about what's more or less likely that is going to happen. And I'm speaking as a sociologist, okay? So I'm speaking as a sociologist. Let's just we're going to just keep going for a second. We're going to come back and continue to have this conversation, okay? You're all doing great, by the way, but this is a really tough thing to do. Okay, so look at here. This is just his breakup. So this is Asian Pacific Islanders, American Indians. So this is Native Americans, about 1%. Asian Pacific Islanders, Hispanic, black, and white. White's about 64%, okay? So this is important that you see this. All right, now, take a look here. There's a wealth gap in the U.S. by race. So what we've got here is this is the richest decile, the richest 10%. So this is this guy down here. And 89% of the people in this group, these families, these almost 13 million families, are white. All right? And then you have Latino, here you have black, and you have other. Okay? So here's black right there. And then here is Latino, and here's other, which includes mostly Asians. And then look at how, as you move down this way, these are 10%. So what happened was I put 4 people in here, but one of the people that was in this group is this line right here, and then next to that person, this one, next to that person, this one, and next this decile. And then we move down here to these 5 till we get to the far end, the poorest 10% of people in the United States, then are 57% white. And so notice many more white people here, many more black and brown people down here, okay, on average, many more, okay? So I want to follow this. I want to make sure that what's the reason behind this gap? Why are there so many more white people here and fewer white people down here? And then I'm not even sure what happens right here. Well, I have an idea. But Nathan, how about you? How do you explain that? This is the race piece, right? This is the race inequality piece that we're talking about all the time. How do white people overpopulate this group here? How do you explain that to yourself? Your 18-year-old engineer wannabe self, which by all accounts, you know about as much as the average 18-year-old. So let's acknowledge, my friend, anybody on the stream, this guy's 18. I'm asking him to explain racial inequality in the United States, okay? So this is the hot seat if there ever was one, but that's okay. Take a stab at it. What do you think? How do you explain that?
So, like you said, I am an 18-year-old white male. I can't claim to understand a lot of cultures around the world, and I can't claim to understand the reasons behind people's actions. But me personally, like...
Yeah, well, just here, I'll make it easier for you, actually, before you jump in. Just what have you been told along the way? What have you, like, what has kind of sunk into you along the way? The explanations for that. Not what you believe, like what have you been told?
I mean, I would say the majority of the things that are said on like social media is that black people don't have the advantages that white people would have to access the money. Which
Okay,
would
black
prove
people,
that.
black and brown, black people and Latino people, and in particular, because if you look at the far way down here, the far right there, it's blacks and Latinos in particular, because they don't have access to money. And what else?
What else does people say, or what else do I believe?
Well, what else do people say? Because that's one side. Remember how I started. Sociologists, we talk about things that happen to people. But there's the other side of what people themselves do, right? Like Maggie, for example, when your family was poor, I can guarantee that if you and I now went back and looked at your people, your ancestors, like your grandparents and stuff, if you and I could be flies on the wall and go back 60 years to people, we would pick out all the relatives who led to you. And we could pick out all the places where they made really bad decisions. It wasn't about something happened to them. Oh man, this person was doing really well, and then they got screwed over by whatever, right? The bank came in and stole their house from them or whatever. Guarantee we could find things where you're like, oh damn, man. Yeah, that's the point at which, like, my grandfather really. And then you got to put responsibility on that person, right? So you talked about, okay, so you've here learned that black and people and brown people, Hispanic in particular, Native Americans, don't have access to things. Okay, so what else? What's another explanation?
Well, this is the route that most people don't go down, and that's that it comes down to, as Corin was saying, it's Corin, right? Yeah. Corin was saying it comes down to people believing that they have the ability. It's like the American dream is, if you come to America and you work really hard, you can make it to the top. And whether that's the top 1%, maybe not, but you can make it really far.
You could. How about this? I'm going to change what you just said there. Say it this way. You can make it further if you believe in it. You can go further than if you don't believe in it. Like if you turn in this direction to go up toward that person, you're going to go further than if you turn in this direction or this direction or this direction, or just cover your eyes and you just stay where you are. But not necessarily make it to the top, but you at least could make something. Okay, so if you put your mind to it, so then what happens to, how do you explain, I'm going to really put you on the hot seat again. What do you explain? Why are there so few black people and Hispanic people here, though? Did they just not put their minds to it?
I have no idea.
Well, some of them clearly didn't, right? That's not a racist thing to say, by the way. I know you're afraid of getting canceled here. I would not set you up to be canceled, bro. I would never do that.
Sure.
It's not a racist thing to say.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, some definitely didn't, just like in Maggie's family. Some people didn't. Some people in your family made really poor decisions because whatever, they did. There were some opportunities and they didn't take it. I don't know who, I don't know what, but I just mean,
The first thing that came to mind when you said, like, why aren't there more? Or what was your question? You worded it.
Yeah, why aren't there more? Why are there so many white people in the richest group up here?
Pertaining to, like, Latino, Black, or other.
Native American in particular. Go Latino, Black, Native American. We'll leave Asians out of it for a second.
So everyone that's not white up there, like, I feel like maybe we should be asking, like, well, they did get up there, and, like, what opportunities were they presented with that others weren't in their same demographic?
Makes okay, awesome. So, like, look at the black people and the Latino people who are in these families up here. What makes them different? Like, what allowed them to get here? So Maggie's saying, like, yeah, you got to look at them. Like, what did they do? Like, what did they get? How did they make that? That's what we want to be thinking about that. Corin, how about you when you see so many black and Latino people at the far end on the left? How do you, as a black guy, right? How do you, as a black guy who's in a conservative organization, right? How do you explain that? How do you make sense of that?
Well, I was looking at all of it, and the question to me would be, why did it decrease? Because if you look on the end, there was a point where there was Black, Latino, and others that were wealthy. Why did it decrease over time?
Yeah.
And it could go back to what he was saying, or was that you that said what was offered, what changed over time, what was presented to that group of people that caused it. So that's what I'm thinking, because I don't look at just the end. I look at the entire list, and we had 57%, and then the other Latino black, there was actually more percentage of people that were wealthy, and over time it decreases.
Okay.
So that's how.
No, but this isn't time. This is
Right.
These are just deciles. But let me tell you what
Right.
one thing that you are getting at, actually. If we go back in time, so this is like in 2016, okay? But if we go back in time, then there are many more white people at this end. The number of black people, right? This is take black people and Hispanic people. The numbers are much higher going back in time than they are today. So black people and Hispanic people have actually made some progress in this way. So how do you, just what do you know, what do you tell yourself about black people and Hispanic people that they're disproportionately down here and not up here? What do you know about black people and Hispanic people that say, like, yeah, man, there's way more of you in this group down here, right? This group of five, all these families, they're disproportionately black and Hispanic and Native American. What do you tell yourself?
Well, these people who are struggling here, I was in that position before, with my family. I never had it like that. Wasn't offered with the best choices or the best, how you say, wasn't given the best opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yep.
So I would say just not presented with the best options to.
And so then what happens is you then see people acting according to the options that are available to them.
Sure.
Which is, okay, that's sociology, man. That's basic sociology. So if we go back to your family, I'm going to, they're operating on the available options in front of them. So it's like, okay, well, you just do what you do. Just like in here, so many people in here, when you all think about your futures and your college degrees and what you're going to do and so on, you're just looking at the options that are likely for you. But here, let me show you something. Down here, I'll stand up a second real fast, just so I can. These families right here, they got options too. You all got a lot of options that you're thinking about, especially if you take he's the 12, almost 13 million. Now come up here to the richest of the rich. You got options. Like one, for example, is you're not going to be a school teacher, right? There are all sorts of things. You're not going to be a college professor. You're just not going to be that. I mean, there are options available, but this is very different options. Options, thanks, bro. Options that people down here, dude, there are things, people at that end who, when they're that are at certain schools and studying finance and stuff, what's your major? Rehabilitation services? Dude, there is not a single person, maybe of all the kids going to college from this group down here, maybe there's one that is majoring in rehabilitation services. Maybe there's one, okay? Maybe someone on the stream can have that person reach out to me because I'm really curious. Maybe there's one, and that's it. That's not even an option for people, you know? So what Corin is kind of getting at, you see that? Okay, here. Really fast, man. These differences here, who's responsible for this racial inequality? What's your gut feeling?
The rich people, the richest of the rich.
Yeah, but aren't people themselves also responsible? Dude, that's a sociological argument, by the way. Corin wouldn't make that, because that would not be an argument for young Americans for freedom, by the way. Like, don't make that argument when you...
Fair enough.
Do people also have some responsibility?
Yeah.
Question is how much?
Yeah.
That's what we're fighting over here. Okay, here. Let me show you. No, hang on. Let me show you what this looks like. So here, take a look at this, man. Median family wealth. So this means half of all the white families in the United States, half of them. So this is wealth, right? So we're adding up all of people's assets and we're subtracting their debt. Okay, this is not about income. This is assets. This is income that you've saved or income that you've invested or income that you've turned into property or something. But this is all of your assets minus your debt. Half of, if we take all the white families in the United States, half of them have more than $184,000 in wealth. And half of them have less than $184,000 in wealth, okay? Then look at Hispanic, look at Black, Asian, American Indian. Look at American Indian, man. Dude, okay, now look at those numbers, man. Those are here you can those are stark numbers. How do you explain that? By the way, before you jump in, people spend their entire lives studying this. So I'm like, we're asking Nathan, the 18-year-old engineering major, hey man, this is like asking you how to build a bridge. Hey Nathan, how do you build a bridge? You know what I mean? Oh, you can do that? All right. Okay, well, this is a hard one. How about just stick with American Indians, dude? Dude, half of all American Indian families have less than $5,500 in wealth. That's not even a 1989 Toyota Corolla. How do you explain that?
Like Native Americans, right?
Yeah, but
I mean, I look at where they're at. Most of them living on the reservations, and there's
half live on reservations. So yep, go ahead.
And they're not I wouldn't say the majority. You know, it's majority, I believe, a white country. So that's also why that number is high with white individuals. But I would say, as far as the Native Americans, it's not the majority, and most of them are on reservations. So,
okay, so one is just the opportunities available that are not available to them. So Maggie, all right, so listen. The title of today's class is, what is it? You need to catch up. So these black families, Hispanic families need to just catch up. So what's that mean? What do they got to do? You're advising them, right? Hey, black people in the United States. Now, mind you, there are a lot of really wealthy black people in the United States. Remember this, okay? Before you start talking, remember this. Remember these folks up here. Don't forget there are wealthy black and brown people at the highest levels. It's just that you got way more down here. And what this looks like when you put it into numbers, hard cash, that's what it looks like. So, Maggie, you're looking at black people, all these people here and American Indians, they got to catch up. What should they do?
I think the incorrect answer that we hear a lot is like work harder, get a job that pays more, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the real answer is fix the culture of corruption. The people that set up the system are white men, so it's created for white men.
Yeah, but if that were the case, you wouldn't see this. See, you wouldn't see wealthy black and brown people at the end. And I think that maybe if we go back down to this group here, I'm just pushing back on you because you're right. This is the kind of thing that's said all the time. But I don't think that these nearly 13 million families are just filled with corrupt people, or just they're doing things that are corrupt, right? It's like a system that's like, I don't know. It's got to be built into the sociology of it. But that's a really good answer. I mean, I like your answer. What would you say, dude? Catch up. What would catching up look like? Advise Hispanic, Black, American Indian, and Asian. Here's the problem with American Asian families. Half of American Asian families do quite well, are doing really well. So many are new immigrants that come with money, they come with education, they come here with much. And the other half are really struggling, right? So, but what would you say? Advise them.
I mean, I don't like your phrasing of advise the poor Black and Hispanic people. I would prefer advise anyone that's really poor and struggling, because like there were 57% white people that were below the 10th decile. But
Dude,
I would say
thanks
that
for
they should work
remembering
harder and get a job that pays more.
that. Okay. All right, here. Let's do this. Can I, wait, actually, you three right here. Can you, the three of you just stand up here really fast? Watch this, right? Bro, you stand down here. You stand, actually, you go back here. This guy's going to represent the poorest of the poor. Bro, you're going to go right here. Bro, you go up a few steps here. You're going to be right here. Okay, so just hold tight. All right, stay right there. Bro, can you stand up real fast? This is this is the ladder of upward mobility, okay? Wealth is up there. Okay, so all of you turn around and look this way, right? Wealth is up there. You're going to climb the ladder of upward mobility, okay? So what you're saying, what Nathan just said is, you're representing poor people, and you're representing really poor people, okay? So Nathan, what you just said makes sense, right? Like, dude, listen, you guys gonna have to work hard, man. Okay, you're gonna have to work hard because you want to get up there. So you just gotta have to make sure it really happens. Okay, hang on a second. So what you're going to do is you're going to climb. You guys are going to climb the ladder. Okay, you got to you're beating them out. You ready? Okay, so go. All right, hang on, stop. See what happened? What did you notice, dude? What'd you notice?
They all went up.
They all went up. So wait, but we just told these two guys, dude, you got to work really hard. You got to work really hard, man. You got to catch up with these guys, all right? Damn it. Like, stop being a slacker, right? And you got to catch up with this guy here. And it's not even this guy. Bro, here, stand up really fast. You go stand halfway up there. Okay, and dude, okay, hang on. You who are wealthy, you got to get to that guy, that place, okay? So we do it again and say, all right, go up. They're all going. Okay, stop. Everyone goes. So as much as we tell these people here, hey man, what happened? What's wrong with you? They keep moving. Dude, what's wrong with you? In fact, you're probably still back down here. Right, Maggie? Like it's very likely you didn't even get anywhere. And then these guys, okay, so now what do we do, right? So, Maggie, the corrupt system, so what do? This guy here, who clearly is the guy that created the corrupt system, what we have to do is we got to stop him from going up the ladder.
No, I think he has to help the people at the bottom.
Yes, but why is he, dude, he's busy helping his own family.
No, I'm not saying like with his hard-earned money. I'm saying like building a culture.
Building a culture. And then this guy has to say, like, what else does he have to say about, first off, how'd you get here, dude? Did you work really, really hard?
Maybe.
No, the answer is probably you did. You worked really hard. You wouldn't be here if you didn't work really hard. You got things probably from your family or other people, but yeah, you probably worked quite hard. You worked hard. But the thing is, it's like we have to put a chain on this guy. We don't want to do that. That's unfair, right? To say like, oh, we're going to increase taxes on the rich. But, like Donald Trump, You know what Donald Trump did? He cut the taxes on this guy. And you know what he did? Okay, I'm going to be anti-Trump here for a second, but Obama did it too, and so did Bill Clinton. I almost said George Clinton in the Funkadelics. Listen, but what we did, so we cut the taxes on that guy. We cut the taxes. And then we got these guys here to believe that the best thing to do is cut taxes for that guy way up there. Check this out, right? Young Americans for Freedom, my friend. Trump lives. So then we get these guys here to believe that the best thing is to cut the taxes for that guy way up there. And if you cut that guy's taxes, dude, what are you going to do with all that extra money? You're going to, you're going to keep moving up. Yo, you mean you're not going to invest in those people down there? Yeah, you're going to give a little money here. You're going to give some to your gala ball or your this or your that. But like, that's not what it is. You're going to do what you do. You build money, man. That's your job, to build money. That's what wealthy people do. That's what we want them to do. Start businesses, invest money, do things, build a nation. Okay, dude, thanks, man. You can have a seat. Thanks, bro. Thanks, man. Okay, we're done. Okay, so here's the problem. You see the issue? You're like, work harder. Now what are you going to say?
I don't see an issue with that. I saw
Tell
great
me.
success in every single one. See, I think I actually agree with Maggie in a way, how she said it's kind of the culture that's a problem. You went up there and you told the guy at the bottom, get to the guy at the top. You didn't say
Yeah.
improve yourself. You didn't say make more money. You didn't say
Exactly.
work harder. You said get there.
Go follow him.
Work hard. Get one step, bro.
Yep.
Let your kid take another one. You'll
Yep.
get to the top eventually.
Okay.
I mean, live
Yep.
a good life.
So this goes to what I said down here. You tell these people to look in that direction. Don't look in this direction. Remember when I did that? It's the same thing. I just did it in a different way. Here's the problem, right? What if they don't make it? Everybody can't be up there because that's the nature of it. It's always going to be. It's 10%. We're dividing this thing into 10%. What if they don't? When they don't make it? Whose fault is it?
I wouldn't say it's 100% theirs, but I would say there were certainly some reasons that they're still at the bottom. Other people made it out of the bottom.
Would you agree with that, Maggie? There are some reasons. So I said, if they don't make it, whose fault is it? When they don't make it. I mean, they're not going to make it to the top. Like, you know, let's just be clear. Like, when they in all likelihood don't make it, whose fault is it?
My first reaction is I disagree with that it's like most of their fault. I think it's just a mixture of culture, the opportunities they were presented, and their own responsibility.
Okay. So, Corin, when these people down here, they make some progress, right? Like, don't go that way. So Nathan is saying, like, dude, believe in yourself, for crying out loud. Like, Maggie, if someone in your family, you grew up at some part of your life receiving food stamps, right? Well, somebody decided we can't do this anymore, or you wouldn't be sitting here at Penn State. So somebody in your family was down here, and they were looking that way. Had whatever they instilled on you, if they were only looking that way, you wouldn't be sitting at this table. So like, okay, so it's like, do something. Make some move. And this is what Nathan is saying. But Corinth, the problem is, what do you say to them when they are working really, really hard and they keep doing it, but they keep seeing those other people continuing too? And like, damn, man. What do you say?
I would somewhat agree with her there. You know, it's a mixture of things. It's not just, you know, strictly working harder, but I would somewhat agree with.
So it's a little bit of luck. It's a little bit of
Right.
opportunities. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, if somebody down here makes it way up there, there's a whole bunch of luck involved. But, it's like, yeah, the best thing you can do is say, like, hey, just keep working at it. But now what we have to do is we have to come up with a sociological explanation that explains why it is that most of these people at most will make a few strides, and that's it. They're not going to pass anybody else. They're not going to get near the top. They're going to make a few strides, and that's all. And they want to get up there, and they're working their tails off, and they're doing everything right, but they're probably not going to get up there. And we have to be able to explain, what do you tell them? Nathan.
I actually think it's pretty easy to make an analogy to like Penn State. So I'm engineering, as you keep mentioning for some reason. I can go into a class with like the smartest people I've ever seen in my entire life. They may have like an 170 IQ, like 50 Albert Einsteins in that class. I could spend 30 hours studying for this test, and they're going to get a better grade than me when they didn't study. I mean, it's possible that no matter how hard I work, I'm not going to do it as well as they am. But you're not going to go over here and tell me you can't be a mechanical engineer because you're just not smart enough.
And if you give up, whose fault is it for giving up? It's yours. But are you more likely, if you just see all these other people working half as hard as you and they just keep doing more and more and more, is it more likely that you will just feel deflated?
No, I mean, every time I get a test back, I'm very upset about that situation.
Okay, so it's more likely that you would. Now, this is the sociology piece. You ready? Through the three of you. So now apply that to the people in this group right here. Who they're working hard, man. People aren't lazy. The person running the checkout at Walmart, they're working hard, man. You ever work at Walmart? You ever like run a register at Walmart? Like, come on, man. You're going to be an engineer. You're going to work hard, but they're working hard too. And so everyone's working hard. But you got to somehow just keep at it, but understand how and why it is that these inequalities exist. Dude, that is so huge, man. This is the kind of stuff that black people are always talking about. Look at the inequality. Look at the inequality. Look at the inequality. And then what other people will be is like, Nathan, my friend, what other people will say is, yeah, I'm looking at the inequality, but you just got to work hard. You got to work harder. But like black people, and Hispanic people and Native Americans are like, I know, I got to work harder, but man, you also got to look at the inequality.
Well, I think it's right in the sentence you just said. They're spending time saying, look at the inequality and not working hard.
Ah, dude. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for saying that. Yeah. No. I mean, yes and no. Some people, they get stuck in that, like in some people in your family, some people in my family. Like I grew up working class. Like I got people in my family that just gave up, okay? But it's not really actually how it's happening that way. Most people don't give up. Some people do, but most people just, the idea is like, if you think about like black and brown, so many black and brown, or poor white people, right? I don't know, people who develop a critique of the system will often just keep pointing out that system. But like, if you go to any black church, like evangelical type black church anywhere in the United States, anywhere, I will guarantee you that woven into that sermon by the minister who's like doing I'm not going to do it. I was going to launch into a 20-second, do my black minister, Pentecostal guy. But I'll guarantee woven into that sermon is, if you do unethical things, it's your responsibility. If you don't make it, it's your responsibility. If you think you can't do it, that's your responsibility. You need to work harder, take more responsibility for yourself, et cetera, et cetera. That is the message. It's just what we have. This is why it's so good to have you in an organization like Young Americans for Freedom, because you break the mold here, because this is such a conservative idea among black Americans who are inherently conservative in the way they approach their personal responsibility and personal actions. They're just looking at sociological things. Okay, here. Do you have something? Go ahead, say it.
I think a good example of this is like of this kind of ladder we were talking about is so paying for school. Some of your parents have probably handed you a check at the beginning of every semester, and a lot of us are going into debt because of it. So the person at the top gets to graduate with no debt
Yeah.
and didn't have to save money for college.
Yep.
And the person at the bottom spent all of their high school years working a job to pay for college and working and writing essays and getting scholarships, and they're only still 2 steps up, and they're still going to graduate with debt. And when they get out and they get a job that's not as good as the job up there, they have to pay back that debt. And like, I would argue that this person has worked a lot harder than the person whose parents paid for their college.
One would argue that. I will also say employers often think that, and they see that.
Yeah, and that translates into the work.
Totally. Let me show you something. This is really cool that you like brought this up. Okay, wait. Oh, by the way, let me just show you this. Even if, doesn't even matter, like this is median household wealth by race and education. So if you have a bachelor's degree, look at white people still outperform black people and Hispanic people in terms of their median household wealth. Postgraduates, so people like me, high school, look at white people still outperform. Doesn't matter. So you could say, well, go get a college degree. So Corin here, on average, this is on average, right? Corin, even when you all get your bachelor's degree, on average, people who look like the three of us are going to outperform people who look like him. They're still going to develop more wealth. Not across the board, but on average. Here, let me show you some. Okay, so now you just need to catch up, right? Take a look at this. Dude, we're going to do some financing. Hey, you would be very wise to pay attention to what I'm about to say. This is the miracle of compound interest, one of the greatest miracles in the known universe, right? So this is, you invest $5 a day. That's the cost of a Starbucks coffee every single day. And you do it for 10 years. And see the blue? That's the $5. But look at the orange. You invest it at 10% compounding interest. So you want to focus on the orange. The orange is all the money that the market makes for you on compounding interest, okay? Look at 10 years. It's not a big deal. Look at 20 years. Oh, that orange starts to grow. Look at 30 years. Look at how the orange really starts. Look at 40 years. So generational wealth, it's not surprising that when I look at this and I look at white people who get a head start in this country, it's not surprising that like, whoa, man, if you start with a lot of money, you're going to like grow that money. So what you just said, right? You're back here trying to manage everything, but other people are like jumping ahead. Nathan?
Well, I do agree that compounding interest is amazing. If you account for inflation, it's a lot less severe than that. So it only really works when you're at the top, to stay at the top.
Yeah, so it can have benefits, and that's if you bring inflation in. Yep. Okay, so here, let me show you this. Notice, so this is, you invest just $1,000 and you put it in the market. All right? So now, think about this right here. Think about these numbers, everybody. Look at these numbers. Look at these. This is on average. These are averages, okay? Look at these numbers. Now, here. So this is 10%, earning 10% compound interest. $1,000, you put it, you invest it. That's it, nothing else. The end of 10 years, you have $2,600. Okay, cool. The end of 20 years, you have 67. The end of 30, you have this. The end of 40, you have 45. That's pretty good, right? $1,000? If you have $1,000 to put away at the end of 45 years. But watch this. What do you think is behind the black? Watch what happens. In 70 years, at 10%, $1,000 is worth almost $800,000. Okay? Now, I want to say, oh, okay. So I want to go back to the guys at the top here. Not the ones down there. I want to go to the ones up here. And if you're up here, what's the likelihood that somewhere in your family, people have been investing thousands of dollars over the course of long periods of time? And when I think about the United States in the race-based system that we have, and I think about the history of Black people and Hispanic people and Native American people, it doesn't strike me at all that the people up here would be disproportionately white. Not entirely white, but disproportionately white. Look at that. Look at that. It's like, man, it's a head start. It's like people in the West. Bro, does this surprise you at all?
No, not really. I mean, I think it actually goes even worse than this in a way. Again, ignoring inflation, but you're really lucky to find 10% compound interest unless you invest for a significantly long period of time, which people with a lot of money can do.
Yeah, no, exactly. But dude, if it's 8%, it doesn't matter. It's going to be, if it's 7%, it's still going to be the same thing. Doesn't matter, right? I mean, it's not going to be as high as that, obviously, but it's irrelevant. The point is, right, compounding, getting a head start. So what we have this idea that when you all are starting here, you're all going to get your college degrees. The three of you are going to get your college degrees, okay? And you're all going to start at the same place on the starting line. But you're not. We're going to start in different places. And then you say, oh, okay, what do we do then? You're, with your student loans, I mean, you know, you're going to have a lot that you're balancing. Do you have loans? Do you have loans?
No.
Student loans? Do you have student loans? But the military is paying for.
I did school before, a little bit of school before the military. Then I joined, and I don't have to use my GI Bill because through the College of Communications, if you're military, they offer you a full ride scholarship.
Got it.
So I have a full ride scholarship.
Dude, okay, which taxpayers are paying for, which is good.
And free housing.
You're gonna clap for them now? Like you're paying for education. Dude, or not only are they paying for your education. No. Listen, no, that's fair though, right? No, I'm just joking, but yeah, this is a thing. Not that. Yes. Do you do you have a question? What's your question?
So, I'm fortunate enough to be from a family who began as a working class and moved up to an upper class. So I know both perspectives, and I can bring up questions that would trigger both sides. And I wanted to ask for those advocating the rich should help the lower class, help them out, build a culture around it. Why should they?
Yeah, why?
Right, because like we're talking about like the importance of inheritance and how valuable the head start is, right? So if you know that your next children or your next generation or your next family member needs that kind of money for a head start, why should they stop building wealth? Why should they give that up to other poor families?
Good. Go ahead.
Me?
One of you.
I actually never said that they should. Like, it is their hard-earned money, so, good for them. But also, like, at the same time, it's so much money that you're not even using. Like, you can throw away 5 yachts. I'm talking about, like, crazy amounts of money. You can throw away 5 yachts, and, like, it is barely a dent in your pocket. When I'm saying, like, right now, $2,000 would change my life. And
Dude.
like, can we get to a point where like, okay, you're a billionaire, like you won Monopoly,
Okay, all right, that's fair. That's the socialist mentality, which is, we live in a semi-socialist system anyway, but I could argue the same with you, by the way. If I compare you with somebody in Haiti, like where $100 If you gave me $100, I know where I can give that in Haiti. They would save the lives of at least 2, maybe 3 people. I know that.
No, I'm like super fortunate, like
Yeah.
where I'm at. And
No,
like,
no, no, but I think what you just said is really valuable. It is valuable, dude.
I mean, I believe in giving back, but it's not because I know it's the right financial decision. It's because of my religious beliefs.
Okay.
But I also find it really interesting why you didn't ask why I have no debt. And that's because both of my great-grandparents came to America with literally nothing. Both, one built a business from the ground up on his own, and the other one went to college as a first-year student and took on all that debt and worked really hard so that I didn't have to.
This is the problem. Yo, hang on. Yo, man. We still have 2 minutes. Dude, this is the problem. What you just raised, what Nathan just raised, look, people up here, Nathan, some of the people up here are like your grandparents, right? They didn't just come and people just gave them money. They came and they worked really hard. And so when they come and they work really hard and then they pass that down to other people like you, it's like that's what life is about. So your grandparents are exactly the kind of, so you're sitting here as well. You should be sitting here, and you should not have debt because they made good decisions. They had children, they had your parents had you, and that's the nature of how this thing works. But the problem is we got to figure out what happens to the people who don't do that, the people who are down here. We have to make sense of it. Yeah.
the higher up you get, the more opportunities you get to give to others. And that's where I'm bringing up the corruption part.
Yeah.
So these people that have the chance to give others opportunity aren't giving it to them or giving it to the people who deserve it. Like, people are okay with hoarding all this money, and I'm not saying they should give it away. I do not believe that. But like, we are okay with sitting around and having thousands of homeless people in America and having starving children, and
Yeah.
like, we're okay with it because we have a lot of money in our pocket.
Yeah, well, we're okay with it also because, yeah, I would agree with you. That's worth applause. Also okay with it because we can shield ourselves from it. Yeah, yeah. No, it's really, hey, listen. Thanks, man. Thanks. Dude.